Good morning. My name is Crisanta Gonzalez, and welcome to Los Angeles Emergency Management Department again.
Yeah, I thought get it.
No, it's not on.
Yeah, get it up nice and close.
Hi, is that better?
Yeah.
All right. Good morning again. My name is Crisanta Gonzalez, and again, welcome to the Los Angeles Emergency Management Department. It's nice to see you all. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
Nice to see you all here this morning. I am the Emergency Management Bureau representative for the Valley. It was formerly Mona Curry. So in my division, I work for the Community Engagement and Preparedness Division for this department. We have, as you all are probably aware, we have 4 individuals. I do the Valley, Faye does the West, Joanne does South, and Veronica does Central. So those are the 4 representatives for community engagement or preparedness, so any events or any speaking engagements that you'd like us to assist or facilitate with, those would be your contacts here at the department. So I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself since I'm new to this department and new to a lot of this. I wanted to make sure you guys, I gave Len some of my business cards. So if you need to reach me, my contact information is on those business cards. Any questions before I let you start your meeting?
Yeah, give me a business card, please.
Uh-oh, you're in
Uh-oh.
trouble.
Uh-oh.
Bill's got your business card, you'll never
Oh,
get
man.
into it.
October 6th, you better mark it on your calendar now.
Well, you know what? I don't mark anything on my calendar until I get an official email from someone requesting me to. That's how that works.
Which is why he wants your
Well,
business
you're
card.
gonna
That's
miss
fine.
out.
You're gonna get an email.
That's fine. You got my email address right there. Shoot me an email. And once I get that email, then it goes through my supervisor if it's after hours. And then once that's approved, then it goes on my calendar. So, you know,
That way.
our budget is restricted on overtime, so we have to work through our supervisor if it's after hours. Good question, though. Thank you for bringing that up.
It's okay, you can come, non-paid, it's all right.
I do, actually. I
I
attend
know,
quite a few
everybody
things
does.
that are,
Good stuff.
Ben can attest to that I actually,
At the last one.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so do
I
I.
didn't see
Yes.
it, so I don't know.
So, but even if I do go without being paid, as a representative of the city, I still have to approve it through
Yeah,
my supervisor.
no.
So, good question. Anything else? Yes, sir.
About 8 weeks ago, they mentioned from your department they were going to be making some announcements about nuclear preparation. And haven't heard anything since then.
It's currently going through a review process to make sure that the message is the same from the county on down, from the state to the county on down to the city. So I believe that if we haven't heard anything, it's just the fact that it hasn't gotten all the verbiage approved to be one standard message. I know they are working on that, but I don't know for sure, but that's probably what they're waiting on is the official okay and sign off from all the leadership in those levels.
Is the Hawaiian Islands the one that started this all
Get
off?
closer to that. Get close to it.
The Hawaiian
No,
Islands.
closer.
Are the Hawaiian
Pointed at you.
Did they start this off with, from my understanding, that they were preparing, it's been 3 or 4 months, they started on the nuclear program.
It's my understanding, and I'm not the expert in this field, so this is my general understanding, is it was actually one of the counties here in LA, in Los Angeles
That started?
that started with the verbiage and the preparation, and then shortly after that, I believe that the county started modifying the verbiage that they already had on their website. So that's kind of what started the trigger, and then the Hawaii decided that they were going to take it, to the next level. And so I know that it's gone through a series of elevations and people, but as I said, I'm not the expert on that. That's just my general knowledge from working here. I don't have any specifics on that. Yes, sir.
Are you the city department that is?
Bob, use the microphone.
You're going to get in trouble.
There's a switch.
Hello. Okay, are you the department for the city of LA that's involved in public education?
Yes, sir. We are, my division under this department is, we public education and engagement, yeah. It depends on what you're talking about, education, so I'm not sure what, are you talking about schools or us educating the public?
I'm talking about 4 million people in Los Angeles who, in my mind, don't really know very much about earthquake preparedness or amassing of supplies or any of that.
Yes, it is 4 million people. Actually, during the day, it's 6 million. there are 4 million residents, but during the day we have 6 million. And yes, our department is one of the team members. So we work as a team. The public is always, whenever we put any kind of things out on the internet as a city, we always link up to American Red Cross. We also link up to the county and to state sites. So we're part of that bigger picture, yes.
Okay, and do you feel that you're being successful? That's a loaded question.
And it's really above my pay grade to answer that. So do I feel like we're being successful? I feel like we're being as successful as we possibly can with the budget and the restrictions that we have imposed upon us, yes.
Okay, that implies that you don't feel that you're being successful.
I
that you
feel we're
need-
being very
And
successful.
that you need more budget.
I feel we do need more budget. I don't think that's a secret. As Ben and other people can attest, we do a lot of stuff on our own time to make sure that we're reaching as much of the public as we can because we take our jobs very seriously. And there's a big pressure to try and get the message out there that 911 is not going to be there when you pick up the phone. Resources are not going to be there when you expect them to. So we need everybody, every Angelino, everybody in the county to understand that they have to prepare themselves, have that go kit at home, have that go kit in your car, have that go kit at work. You have to talk to your family members, and you have to start planning as a neighborhood to prepare when those 911 responders can't make it. So we're trying very hard to get that message out.
Okay, last question. What fraction of these 3.7 million people in LA, city of LA, or 6 million during the day, do you think actually have heard that message?
I think percentage-wise, I think a large percentage have heard that message. I think a large percentage also don't believe that that message is going to affect them. So there's a difference between hearing the message and taking it seriously. So I believe that I would say 95% of Angelinos have heard the message in one form or another. As far as how many take that seriously, that would be a conjecture on my part, but I don't think it's at 90%.
10%?
I have no idea. Yes, sir.
Could you share, could you share with us some of the things that your department does to educate the public? Programs you have in place right now?
We currently have, we work with CPAP, and we work with neighborhood councils, and
CPAP?
community police advisory boards.
Yeah, do you know who's on CPAP in San Pedro?
I am in charge of the valley, so that would be a question for Joanne. Joanne's in charge of the south. But we have those. We work with senior centers. We work with assemblymen. We work with neighborhood councils. We work with council members. We put our message out there to everybody who's having an event, and we're basically want to be included in those team events because there's 27 of us in this department, and there's only 4 of us who are for community preparedness for 6 million people, 4 million people, whatever it is. So we can't go, and we don't have a budget. We have no money for giveaways. We have no money to do events. We don't have a budget for that. So we have to piggyback on everybody else's events that try and get us to invite us to those.
Okay. So you have no money for public announcement, public service announcements?
That's our comms unit, and so I don't know about that. That's our communications area, so I'm not sure. I know we have our website, and as far as for my department or my division, we utilize our Facebook, we utilize our social media, we utilize our internet, but my division, I can speak, we don't have a budget for that now.
Okay, no outreach budget?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi. Okay, my question is, given the circumstances, wouldn't it make sense to allow civilian CERT instructors?
Allow them to do what?
Allow them to teach CERT classes?
That is the LA Fire Department. We don't run the CERT program. That's a question for LA Fire. Excellent questions. Anything
LA
else?
Fire Department owns that idea.
LA Fire Department created that idea, and they have taken it upon themselves to train the public for that idea. So as far as ownership, I don't believe that's a correct term, but I think that nobody else has said, we'll put the money, we'll do it for you, as far as I understand. So LA Fire is doing its best with its limited resources to roll out a program that they started.
It's really the reverse of that. The
Okay.
fire department doesn't want anyone else to do it.
That's,
So, you know.
again, out of my pay grade.
Just so you know.
And I'm not part of fire, so I can't speak to them. All I can speak to about fire is that those are one group of very dedicated individuals. So I don't think I'm going to go into any negative aspects of their department because I have a great admiration for that.
It's not
So-
negative, it's just fact.
Just a fact, still not my fact. I don't know that fact. Yes, sir.
The Los Angeles Fire Department created the program. It's since been adopted in over 200 countries. It's now a FEMA program. FEMA took the fire department materials and has promoted them within the city of Los Angeles, only within the city of Los Angeles. The CERT program is administered by the Los Angeles Fire Department. And their concern is, within the city of Los Angeles, when people are going to be interfacing with the Los Angeles Fire Department, they want to make sure everybody gets the correct message. And that's why their classes are taught by firefighters. Now, I have taken CERT in other jurisdictions where they're also taught by firefighters. And there's something to be said about having a person teaching the class in a uniform with a badge. It's not to say I or you or other people who are qualified to teach it couldn't teach it. But in the city of Los Angeles, it's the fire department, because the fire department is going to be the organization that these people are interfacing with, and they want to make sure everyone has exactly the same message.
Well, thank you. That's a very good point. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions? I'll turn it over to Len. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate everything you guys do. Have a great day. If you need me, you know where to reach me.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'll turn this off. I don't think I need this one. Let me know if you can all hear me.
What?
What? Yeah. Okay. As I say, I'll use my jury voice. Just some general things. Number one, I think one of the things that we should look to do perhaps with neighborhood councils is encourage them to talk to their budget advocates with regards to money being spent on emergency preparedness. And one place would be right here with EMD. They're worse off than done as far as staffing and budget. It's really amazing. The other would be with CERT. I don't know if I mentioned last time, but my understanding is that in the last number of years, LAFD has gone from 16 instructors to 4 instructors, a captain and a civilian, for the whole city. We've talked about other ways to spread it around. Had a nice meeting with Captain Wynn on some things and talked about that particular problem. Perhaps we can come up with a plan, but it takes money. And the city's got to be aware that they have to set aside dollars for this. The last announcement I saw from the city, how many people here get Eric's 360 announcement? How many? Other than me, that's 2. You don't get it in your email? Eric's 360? Okay.
What is it?
What is it?
Well, every week he puts out a little thing. Eric Garcetti.
Oh, that guy.
That Eric.
Oh, there's other areas.
Okay, that Eric. He puts out a little blurb, and it's called 360. Comes by email. I get multiple copies. They got too many email addresses for me. And it's a little short 1-minute video with basically, hi, here's what's going on in the city of LA. A lot of it, of course, promotes Mr. Garcetti's efforts. And then they've got some topics under it. And this week they had an announcement regarding getting ready. And that's about the most I've seen from the city in a very long time. And basically it was, hi, it's going to happen. You should get ready. By the way, here's a link to Ready LA, which is EMD. Here's a link to the Red Cross, by the way. And that was about it. And that's not spending a lot on emergency preparedness or making the 4 million aware of what they should do. So those are things that I think that neighborhood councils should be pushing through their budget advocates, is to convince the city that they need to spend more on emergency preparedness. With emergency preparedness, I don't know a lot about this. It's still in the formative areas. I'm told that we'll know more, and perhaps right after the first of the year, we'll either have Chris Wynn, Captain Wynn, or John Ignatzik, Captain Ignatzik from LAFD to come in and talk about it. And we've all talked about these emergency containers, and apparently LAFD has cobbled together money from different sources, and their plan is to put out emergency bins. These are smaller than the containers, a lot less expensive, and they'll have first responder stuff in them. They'll be for CERT, and I guess they'll actually be under CERT, is what they're going to be. And they're going to be on city property. Where? Well, they're still negotiating and trying to figure that out. So, you know, once this thing gets started, then we'll have somebody come tell us about it, tell us where these things are, how they're distributing them, what's in them, things like that. And it may be that instead of neighborhood councils promoting these large containers, which I still think are a good thing because there's other things you can put in them that you can't put in smaller containers, perhaps neighborhood councils could get involved in distributing even more of these, perhaps, you know, one in each of the 97 neighborhood council areas. You've got places like Sunland, Tahunga, what is it? One fire station for 90-some thousand people. And if you go up the hill, there's absolutely nothing. And maybe we could look at things like that. So I don't know yet. That's just something that's formulating now. So that's about as much as I can get. Yeah.
They've been talking about that for now for about 6 years.
Yeah, well, apparently they've actually cobbled together the funds from different grants and such, and they've actually got things designed. Now it's a question of where and exactly what.
How many are they talking about?
I believe right now they're looking for one in each council district,
So
city council
15.
district.
Yeah,
John?
The idea is to have one container in each battalion. Whether they have the funds for that, I don't know.
Yeah.
And these containers will contain primarily tools for CERT battalion coordinators to access, to distribute to their CERT members, like search and rescue, that kind of stuff. They're not supplies. It's not the kind of thing you're going to be putting in. Well, you might put some of these items in a neighborhood council container, but these are primarily emergency response tools for search and rescue teams. You know, the kind of things that people aren't going to carry in their car, like pry bars, those kinds of things that are, you need badly in an emergency, but you're not going to necessarily have one with you, so you could go to your battalion station, battalion headquarters, and have access to these kinds of materials. Now that's an overview. It's not exact, don't quote me on it, but like we've been talking about it for several years, and it's a money issue. It's like everything else in the city, it's a money issue. I mean, this kind of stuff is no-brainer, and it's done every place else in the country, but it's not done here for some reason. It makes no sense to me, but what can I say?
Well, I know that, and I'm trying to get from the crew up in Cupertino some information, and I think they've been a little busy in the last number of weeks. Now, they're not in the middle of Sonoma County, but even so, probably some of their resources have been up. They have a program that's called ARC, and I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but they have, I think it is 6 containers throughout the city. And you got to understand, their city is about 67,000 people, and I told them that we have neighborhood councils that are larger, more populous than their city is. But their containers are apparently both CERT and neighborhood volunteer type things. When I say neighborhood volunteer, they talked about blankets and cots where people could catch a rest and things like that during emergencies. They could be used by both CERT and community volunteers. And I'm trying to get from him a list, an inventory of what they have in their containers. Hang on a second, John.
Well, I have one of those. We spent $33,000 staffing it. I can send you the list of what's in it.
Well, they spend a darn sight less than that.
Yeah.
But You know, and I know the city isn't gonna be spending that amount on their little bins, but I don't know that the bins that they're talking about would have things like cots and blankets. My understanding is, as John said, it's tools, and I think one of the only replacement things may be water or something like that. Otherwise, they're all things that will be there for a long, long time, and they're set up in a way that, or they're going to be set up, the plans are so that, you know, they're water resistant and this, that, and the other things. John?
Yeah, the last time I talked to Captain Lynn about it, we're talking about these job site boxes like you see on job sites, big lockable containers that are waterproof. They're not that large. They're designed for holding tools. Now, it may have evolved from there. It's been some months since we've talked about it. On the other hand, I have a lot of experience with bins. I took cert in Salt Lake County. I was living in Salt Lake City at the time. They had a very active program installing shipping containers in various areas of the city. And we learned a lot of things, which I'd be happy to pass on. One of the things we learned was don't put expensive items in the bins, because people will steal them.
Yep.
Don't put items in the bin that need to be replaced. Don't put water, you know, don't put batteries. Those kinds of things need to be replaced on a regular basis, and they don't hold up well in the heat. Those batteries, water, radios, things like that belong in the garages of the responders who live in the neighborhood, like the CERT program people, where they can maintain them. The things you want to put in the bins are the big bulky items that nobody has room to store, like pry bars, lumber, cots, blankets, 5-gallon buckets, rope, tarps, bleach, those kinds of things that you need in an emergency that people can access to supplement the supplies they have in their own personal stashes.
Well, one of the biggest problems with the big containers, the shipping containers, is where to put them, okay?
Define big, you've got 10, 20, and
Oh,
40-foot
okay.
containers. What's big?
Okay, these are minimum 20s,
Okay.
okay? Minimum 20s. And you've got to, now, as I understand it, the ones that the city's looking at are more the contractor size, maybe 7 foot long at the most, which is a lot easier to find a place to put them. The people I've talked to have basically told me, don't count on city sites. Number one, don't count on fire department sites, period. Don't even think about it. I was going to go talk to the chief about that, and I talked to one of his deputies, and everybody has told me, you're not going to get permission, they're not going to be there, period, forget that. Rec and Parks is kind of suspicious of them, who knows? So that's one of the biggest problems. So once we see how this works out, and we get somebody like either John I or Chris Wynn here to talk to us in January or February, we'll know a whole lot more. We'll know where we are, we'll know what kind of things are in them, and we'll know whether or not this is the kind of thing that neighborhood councils would be interested in financing. Because, once again, as John just said, it's the fact of dollars. It's strictly money. And I guess they've really struggled over the last few years to get a bunch of this cobbled together to be able to do this program. But once they've expended it on the number that they're going to put out, whatever absolute number that is, that's it. They don't have any more money. It just doesn't exist
Do we
to
have
do
a
any
number
more.
for how much they'll cost?
I think it's nowhere near as expensive as one of the big ones. We're probably talking about in the $3,000 range.
Less than that,
For what, maybe 2,500?
less.
Less?
You
Okay.
can get it for less than that.
Well, no.
Depending on what size you want to end up with.
No, I'm talking about fully
Oh,
stocked.
fully stocked, yeah, probably.
I think fully stocked, they're in the range of $3,000. That's for the construction of these things and setting them up and everything else. And once again, they'd have to be under some city department. And if they were going to be for CERT people, for first responders, I wonder whether or not, rather than EMD supervising them, if we could get LAPD to sponsor them and be the supervising, and then, you know, the city attorney would back up. LAFD, yeah. So that's where this is. Bob?
Okay. We are I'll remind everybody, we're now well into the second year of this alliance. And I've learned a lot over the last 22 months or so, what the city agencies are doing. I certainly learned something that caused me to come to this meeting originally, but listening to Lynn right now and the previous speaker and sum total of everything I've heard over these years, it seems to me that you come to a very simple conclusion, which is that the city of LA, all the way up to the mayor, talks a good game. They talk about how this earthquake, it's not a matter of whether, but when, and so on is going to happen. But the city acts as if it's not going to happen. Or if it does happen, we're not really going to prepare for it. And what's the evidence? Well, everything we've just heard, everything we heard over the last 2 years, everything that people have said in this room, it's a matter of money. Well, gosh darn, our budget is what, $7 billion a year? This population has actually not grown over the last 10 or 12 years, but the budget's gone up quite a bit. We keep reminding ourselves that this building itself is not staffed on the weekends, and we even have trouble getting in and out of the parking lot. There's lots of stuff, but I mean, I'd like to point out one thing that if we're going to have like a sort of round table later, or maybe I can expand on it, but the way you think about this, if you want to be effective, is what do you actually need to do? What do you actually need to accomplish in total, which might involve putting 400 bins around the city of LA, which is still not very many. It might involve training another 100,000 people in CERT. That wouldn't be very many for our total population. It might involve an advertising budget of, let's say, $5 or $10 million a year. All of those things are reasonable. I mean, our society spends a lot more than that to sell candy. So, shall I wait?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of lip service, and what I want to argue is that the function of this alliance is, if nothing else, is to be a political force to carry the message that the city is not doing its job. And we have access to lots of neighborhood councils. And by the way, I do not limit what we are doing to neighborhood councils or even neighborhood councils plus neighborhood watch. Our responsibility is to, first of all, the 4 million people in the city of LA, and then another 6 million people in the rest of the county. And we have to at least be representing the interests of those people in terms of, hey, if the big earthquake happened next week, why is the city safer now than it was 2 years ago when we started? And I'm not really sure that it is.
Now, it may seem like 2 years, but it was actually November of 2016. So, but, yeah, I know what you mean. What?
You're saying this has only been in existence for 1 year?
Did we start in 2015?
We've been around a long time.
My heavens, how time has gone. Okay,
Yeah, it's,
all right.
I've been here a lot longer than that.
I brought a little show and tell today. One of my favorites. You get these at Harbor Freight.
What caliber you got in there?
Yeah, and they're really great. You label them, and for anybody who hasn't seen them, this is a pair of FRS radios.
Where's the charger?
It charges off of your iPad charger. It charges off anything that has a USB port. They also take AA batteries, and that's, I think, on sale $35 for a pair.
Where?
Big Five. Follow their ads on Sunday mornings. So if anybody's never seen them, let me know. You can come up and take a look.
I thought you said Harbor Freight.
What? No, the box is Harbor Freight.
Oh, okay.
These little ammo boxes, Harbor Freight sells them for $4 and change
Okay.
when they have their sale.
Are Big Five?
Huh?
And are they the new
No,
No, these aren't the new ones. The new ones are somewhat different. They're higher power. John will correct me, the one thing you have to be careful with when you're looking at the new ones is that they've kind of settled on Motorola's format, and you've got to make sure they...
We think they will, yeah.
Yeah, and probably you'll have to follow that, which would be their format to make sure. But a good name brand will pretty much be what you want.
Midland,
Huh?
Midland.
Midland is good. God, I used to use a Midland for shortwave. Good heavens, going back. What do I got here?
I don't know if it's wrong.
Yeah, I've got the Cobras. And
You do have to be careful because there's no standard for the number you assign to it. The frequencies are standard.
right,
But there's no standard for the manufacturers to number any one frequency the same across brands.
right.
And some lead Cobras are different than the others. So that means if you have a Cobra radio and you're on channel 1, and I'm on a Motorola or a Midland radio on channel 1, we're going to be different channels.
What's the range of those things?
The honest to God range?
Yeah.
Well, if I'm on a mountaintop at 3,000 feet, I'll get you 20 miles away.
Okay.
Basically,
San Pedro, up, C, down, Z.
okay, basically, you're not gonna talk to somebody on the other side of one of the hills. You're probably gonna talk to anyone within about he's getting about a 6-block radius right now?
To be safe, we say within several blocks to half a mile. But count on the several blocks, depending on the state of your batteries.
Yeah.
One of the problems with those radios with the rechargeable batteries is
Yep.
the rechargeable batteries by definition, or by design, don't have the capacity of the alkaline dry cells, the AA batteries. In my FRS radios, I get the rechargeable batteries to last maybe half a day, and the dry cells last months,
Yeah.
the usage I use. So I just pitch the rechargeables safely, and I only use the AA's now.
Your
Some radios take AAA's left.
yeah. Your one problem with the lithium-ion batteries is while they're very good and they run themselves until they're almost gone, when they hit their cutoff point, there's no warning. They just shut off. That's the one problem. These have lithium ion. But the one reason I do like this is I don't have to have an AC source to plug in a charger. My charge controller, one of my charge controllers from the solar, has a USB port, so I can plug right into that and take off that charging. I can plug it into my car and charge it up. All kinds of things that I can go into to charge it. And yeah, I do keep a stack of AAA batteries to go into those radios. But I've found those little ammo boxes very good because you can store batteries in them with a date, you can store the radios in them, you can store all kinds of things in, and they stack very nicely inside of a container where you've got your stuff. So there you go. That's about where we are with updates right now. Yeah.
Going back to your emergency
Here.
containers, has the neighborhood council,
Would you grab that mic right in front of you? So we get it on the recording.
the American Red Cross, I live in the valley, and I know there are approximately 20 containers in the valley, 20-foot containers set up for 150 people in schools, parks, and I believe some businesses.
The parks have gotten rid of the ones except for their personnel.
Well, the parks still have American Red Cross.
Okay.
Those parks that have them still
Okay.
have them in place. Why couldn't we put something into theirs or next to theirs?
Okay, here's your problem. Now with the schools, it's going to be useless because they are set up for supplies for their teachers and their students for 3 days to go on lockdown if necessary. And that means you aren't going to get onto their campuses, so any bin you place there is going to be absolutely useless to you.
Not true,
Oh, well, according to LAUSD.
according to LAUSD, but there are ways to get it off the bin that separates the school from exterior access. It's been done.
Okay, okay. If they'll
But in
allow it,
general, yeah.
if they'll allow it, good. The parks
So
all,
then-
the parks all have bins for the, hang on.
You're raising political issues,
I-
you're raising administrative issues.
I understand.
They're not physical impossibilities. It's a big difference.
Maybe not. Maybe not. But the schools, you got that. The parks do have their own supplies for people who work at the park. They supposedly have a set up where when the emergency hits, if you can get to the park where you work, that's where you go. If not, you go to one of the other parks. They do have bins that are locked up for their use and their supplies. As far as other places, if you can get them on church or temple or business locations, that's good. The main problem is administration. As we've said, neighborhood councils can't spend money on their bins that they oversee because the city will not accept liability. You want to form a 501 and set that up, you can do that. If you've got a 501 that will accept it, like we do in Tarzana, that we've got it on their property, they will do that. But otherwise, it has to be under some city department or agency that city people administer. So that's the big problem. That's the major problem.
I'm sure I hear that correctly. NCs cannot spend money on emergency stuff, is that what you're saying?
For the masses.
For the masses.
For the masses?
So now, if you want to spend money on FRS radios, you can spend money on FRS radios, okay? Yep, that's allowed. The only problem is, you're not supposed to distribute them to people to take home with them, okay?
Okay.
But you can't have them someplace that they can, this is property of the neighborhood council.
Which completely negates the whole point.
Right, but as far as
Does it not?
As far as emergency supplies, that being food, water,
Oh, yeah.
blankets, first aid kits, cots, et cetera, et cetera.
Funny, but-
Yeah, body bags like Lake Balboa has, you cannot. City attorney says no, and it won't be approved.
Yeah, well, that makes total sense.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah,
it's
okay.
the liability issue that they go on. That's the big thing. Bob, briefly?
Okay, well, I didn't go to law school like you, so I'm really sick of hearing that word liability because it's used as an excuse anytime it requires a decision to be made. Those rules can be changed or they can be ignored.
Not ignored.
Yeah, ignored. And the question we keep raising is, well, can neighborhood councils spend money? Well, there's not enough budgeting in a neighborhood council to really do the job. There ought to be budgeting through some, the city general fund, or set up a separate fund. And again, we keep coming down to the same question, what needs to be done, instead of, we always end up getting into the mud of, well, there's this problem, there's that problem, they're always the city attorney, it's always
Okay.
the budget, it's always this and that. It's time we said, this needs to be done, and it is our job as the alliance to then make that report, this needs to be done, and we ask that it be done. And everything else is a lot of red tape, and we all know it.
Okay. I do not disagree with you. I do not disagree with you. And it is a political thing. We're going to wind this up and move forward. We had another comment. No more comment?
I have one more comment.
Okay, comment. Grab the microphone. I talk loud.
I picked up on Tuesday of this past week that the city of Lancaster has set up, and if they've done it, I've seen other areas have done it, they've set up an area for all their employees and their families in the event of a major whatever, where they will be taken care of. This is just for the city employees and their families. And it's a great idea. They got a great facility for it, and I think it will work for them. Does anybody know that other areas in the city are doing the same thing?
Other areas of the county, you
Oh,
mean?
this was in the county, I'm sorry.
Well, when you consider the size of Lancaster, they can probably do that. I don't know, I have never heard anything like that. I don't know what the thing would be with that, but no, I've never heard of it. I've never even heard of it. And we may have more employees in the city of Los Angeles than they have population out in Lancaster, I'm not sure.
They can each have an airplane.
Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, they have an airplane too.
Each one.
But, no, that I haven't heard of, so there you go. All right, that's where we are. I really ask you to talk to your budget advocates, anybody who may be a budget advocate, and tell them this is something we really have to push. I know that they still haven't gotten permission, or they haven't gotten into the place where they're embedded with the departments. So that is, when they actually start their budgets. They come and interview after whatever the department has done as far as their budgeting. And it would be helpful, like in a department like this, if they could know the problems even before the budget is formed and start advocating for these things right now. They'd also like to be, I understand, part of the mayor's budget team, and I'm not sure that's going to happen because that would be the place to really advocate. But we need neighborhood councils to advocate for budget, and it's as simple as that. And without that, without pushing, they're just not going to spend any money on this type of thing. So, go ahead, then one last thing I'll go ahead.
Okay. Are we at the discussion part of the program?
Not yet, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
The last thing is, and I didn't bring it with me, darn it, we need ideas for what to put on the face of a website. We got the website, it's there. I brought it some time ago, and it's got a number of things where we could put, what's this called, links, you know, on the face of it. You could have EMD as one. Once this new program is up, what are they calling that for the city?
Oh, the Ready Your LA Neighborhood?
Thank you, yes. Yeah, Reland or whatever, yeah.
Ready.
Okay, we can have that on the, but we need something that looks good, that people will go to, and then we can put all these videos on that website, we can put the recordings on the website, we can have our notices and such on the website. People will know where to go, or at least have a place to go to access it, to see what's going on with this alliance. I think it would be a big help in doing some outreach, so there you go. So that's where we are. I'm going to ask Bill to come on up. You want a microphone? And I'll give you a microphone. Like I say, I talk on. I wanted to give a brief update. They had a very successful emergency fair. You can leave that one. Here's it. And
You want to leave him with a microphone?
not really, but
Okay, I didn't think so.
but it was good. I was just blown away when I was just told about how many people were there. I thought it was about 50% of that, or less than 50%. But this is the kind of place where the city of LA, I mean, the different departments were there, but this is the kind of a place where the city, if they wanted to spend a little bit of money, could be out there advertising, honest to God, emergency preparedness, as opposed to giving out trifolds from DWP or things like that. So there you go. Bill?
Well, hopefully DWP was giving out the trifolds and not EMD. But we do try to get that from all possible agencies and organizations to put into the kits. But aside from that, we'll start from the beginning basically. We do have a lot of this information up on the valleydisasterfair.com website, where I posted a general thank you to everyone that participated, because it was a huge event. Our prior event had about 3,000 people. We were figuring maybe 3,500, because we only go up a little bit each year. And then we get the big count that we saw, 7,000. is our estimate. How do we know that? Well, every person that comes to the fair is given a ticket for our drawing, whether they're in a stroller or wherever. So we look at the starting numbers and the ending numbers, and I had even 2 rolls. I think there may be 1,000 on a roll that were in cellophane. They were all gone. I got no tickets back. The drum that we used to choose from, which was Christy's, was Christy Adair at her events, it was like half full. And those tickets don't take up much space when they're flat. So it was like, are you sure? Are you really sure? So yeah, that's probably a pretty good number. We have a drone shot almost 45 minutes before the fair opened, and it went kind of like this and down like this, and that was like a 250 by 300 foot rectangle. So we know we had a lot of people there. And based upon the registrations, I'm just going to look at this because it's easier than trying to memorize. We did post, we had 174 cities and communities represented. That's really down more like 165 as I start going through and continue to go through the list and correct it. Because when I say count the number of cities, well, it's like your mail. If you spell it wrong, it counts as a new city. So when you fix some of those, the counts go down a little bit, but still it's a lot. 75 of 98 neighborhood councils had some of their stakeholders there, some more than others, naturally. We had people from all 15 council districts come. Did we have 1,000 from San Pedro? No. But we had some. So this is the idea that, hey, council members, we give you an opportunity to tell your constituents that signed and registered for the fair a little bit about what you do. We got 3 responses out of 15. Last year, I think we had 5 or 6. That's another outreach effort, which we don't understand why. It's free. And whenever you contact a council district and you find the right person, you say, when can you give us, their first question is, when's the deadline? Well, how about now? Why do you always have to have a deadline? You pass it anyway. So, same thing with neighborhood councils. When they register, we send out an email that says, hi, welcome to the fair, here's all the great stuff, here's the council district you're in, a message, here's a neighborhood council you're in, a message. Same thing with the NCs. It's free advertising. They're not responding. There's a few that respond all the time, but many do not. If any of you have an idea as to why, or can push your neighborhood council, registration will open July 1st on 2018. Our fair is October 6, 2018. Same place. Get the word out, please. So, we gave on all 1,400 kits that we prepared. Typically, we say we're going to present 100, the first 100 cert people that come. We'll give you a special item for your kit. We gave out over 120 this year. We had a few extras, so why not? And we gave it a smorgasbord, a sample. Do you want this, the flashlight, the knife, several items? A crowbar was included. Very interesting as to what they choose. The paracord bracelets, many crank flashlights, I love that. That was kind of a popular item too. So very, very interesting. 135 child IDs were processed by Burbank Masonic Lodge. That's a record for them anywhere. 53 units of blood were collected. That's a record for that bloodmobile anywhere. Probably Vegas had a lot to do with it, but perhaps the location did as well. Through their website, you can sign up ahead of the fair to make appointments. We let you in at 9 o'clock instead of 10 if you're going to be screened for blood. Most of the morning slots were filled up before the fair opened. Great response by the community. Of course, we had our 5 excellent speakers. Although all of them were recorded, and all those are up on the website, valleydisasterfair.com. Click on the news, scroll down a bit. You'll see their brief bios and the video links there. So if you missed it or want to remember what they saw or heard, you can watch that there. We also processed amateur radio exams. 9 technician, 2 general, and 2 extra class. Some of those may have been upgrades to general and extra. I don't have that information, but we did a lot. About, I think it was 2 weeks before, wasn't it, that you had a class to help people learn what's required of that test, and then their exam was at the fair. We've had exams there for the past several years as well. So it's a great way to promote that, to get them involved, and then come see. We also invite Los Angeles, what is that, Los Angeles Neighborhood Council Coalition to have their meeting. The last few years when we were at the fire station, we could hold it next door. Well, now it was a little more difficult, but we found a location with the gas company a few blocks away. Very gracious, set up the meeting place. They came, held their meeting, and then would have time to come visit the fair. We extend the same offer to the DWP MOU committee. A little less successful there. But it gives also people that normally go to Lang from here a chance to be a little closer. Just like, well, why are we always meeting here? Why not once in San Pedro, once up in the valley? Same thing with some of these large organizations that are citywide. Gives them a chance for other people that maybe never get a chance to come to attend those meetings as well. So that worked out fairly well. We served about 2,500 meals. Okay, 7,000 people came, 20. Were they just not hungry, or they don't go into the mall to eat? That's a number I can't quite get my arms around yet as to why it worked out that way.
We're all vegetarians.
Well, we had veggie burgers as well, and I ate 2. So, that gives you an idea as to where that second number went. So it kind of makes you wonder, maybe they used them all. A lot of people, we do know, are concerned about the length of the line, want to get their kits, and then go home. That's not the purpose of the fair. There's a whole lot of stuff you miss, but at least if we have some supplies, maybe in 6 months they'll think, hey, Joni, shouldn't we, And that's kind of the whole idea behind the idea of the kit, is to get so hard to get started. We help you get started. Speakers were excellent. We had, how many did manage to get there, at least for some part of it? Okay, so you have an idea, you can tell your friends and neighbors what was involved. The videos were helpful out. We also have some photos posted up there. So any of you that have taken photos and have a place to display them and just want to send them to me, we'll post those as well, because that's one way that we get the word out on that. We had great prize drawings. Most of that is donated. Some we purchased, but almost 90%, 95% of the prize drawings are donated. Sears once again stepped up and donated a 40-inch television, which was won before the fair ended, which was really cool. After many years of effort, we got the Jaws of Life, or extrication as the fire department calls it, to come there, tear apart a 4-door car. That was always fun. I know, that is a major accomplishment, because...
I wish I'd come this year. I went last year.
Well, like I said, write it down, October 6th. Don't plan your out-of-country vacations on that date.
The times will be the same, 8 to 2, or what was it, 9 to 2?
Well, the fair in the past has been 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. One of the many things we will be reconsidering when we start up again with our meetings is perhaps changing the time. Whether we start at 9 and end at 1, or start at 9 and go to 2, make it a little bit longer. We might do something like that. By the way, we do have regular team meetings. We'll start in January 27th, fourth Wednesdays. At the moment, at the Granada Hills North Neighborhood Council office. That's the same place that they're going to tear down and put 290 mixed-use apartments and things like that, condos, etc. So right now we're there. Will we be there tomorrow? Yeah, because they haven't started construction, haven't kicked everybody out, but that's where we plan. So if you're interested in being a part of that, 2 p.m. is when we generally meet. Send me an email. I'll get you on the list and let you know when the meetings are. Yeah.
Should I use the mic?
If you want.
Yeah.
I'm not recording, so I do have a few more things to, just some stats.
Okay.
Here. Go ahead.
Just as a suggestion, I went there with a friend. He got there a lot earlier than I did. And he said he got in one line to get tickets to get the bag, and another line to get the bag, and another line to register, even though he was pre-registered or whatever. I'm just thinking there might be a way to streamline that process.
I don't want to discuss issues with the fair because that will take days. It is a consideration, I know that, but that also goes to point to why they are there. The registration, the idea behind registering ahead of time is so when you go to check-in, scan, done, and you can get in. What happened is we got so organized at the registration check-in that we overwhelmed the kit distribution. Normally, we don't have that problem.
Actually, there were only 2 lines, not 3.
So that is some of the things we're looking at considering. We saw where a lot of the people wanting to enter the fair were lined up on Shirley, where there's either no sidewalk or minimal sidewalks. That creates a traffic issue. So it's a new place for us. It's a new place for the mall. I think they were blown away by what happened. We tried to tell them for months and months, be prepared. This is big. It's not like the farmer's market. It's not like the little circus that comes to town. This is big. We tried to do a lot of work ahead of time with them to suggest how they could participate. Now that they've had the fair, they're suggesting that they could do the same things we proposed they did before. But now they have a better feeling for it. So hang on a second. So one of the things we asked them, which is not required when they register, is how did you hear about the fair? And we had one drop down that said other, fill in the blank. But out of those, 349, and these are families that register, not individuals. So one family could represent one person or 7 or 8, as some actually did. 349 said they heard it from neighborhood councils. That should have been 1,000. Come on, guys, get the word out. Even if it isn't in your neighborhood or within your boundaries, the earthquake is not going to stop at your boundary. That's one of the biggest concerns we have with things like neighborhood councils, because it's been so drilled in, you can only use money for your stakeholders. Well, just like we heard earlier, the city increases their personnel by like 40% every workday, which basically is 7 days a week. So you need to consider, and maybe the person driving through the community is going to be able to help and stop and help you. So that just kind of gives you an idea. 400 said it was from other, about 300 from Facebook. Word of mouth, 612. So we are getting the word out, which is great. Some of the cities we had, this is, I find, kind of interesting. Central, let's see, Canoga Park, we had a lot from there, of course. Those are all the neighborhood councils. But just some of the cities, 3 couldn't figure out what city they came from. Okay, that's not too bad. 18 from Canyon Country, Gardena, La Puente, La Crescente, Lomita, Long Beach, Maywood, Oak Park, Oxnard, Prescott. They were probably here on vacation. Chorus Hill, 110 from Reseda, a few from Rinaldi, Rosemead, Rosamond. Is there a city called Rosamond?
Rosamond?
Okay. That's not a typo for
North of
Rosemead.
Lancaster.
Okay. You see how far I get. San Francisco, hey, welcome, guys. So many from Simi Valley. A lot come from the neighborhood council that have told us in the past that it's too far for their stakeholders to come. Really? Anyway, so marvelous time. Hope you all can come next year. We always, of course, are looking for monetary support. Since everything is free, somebody has to pay for it. A lot of it is neighborhood councils, but there are other sources, other venues that we can and continually go to look for, but like everything else. And for personal donations, that's also on the website. You can go through Ralph's program, Food for Less, Shop from Amazon, just like a lot of other organizations. We're all set up that way. It is a 501c3. It is tax deductible. And you had a question first, unless I covered it already.
I had
Okay.
a question. It was just it was really, really convenient for those of us who set up to be able to drive on to the location and unload rather than schlepping stuff from a parking lot to the setup location.
We had that at the fire station as well, but it was a little more controlled because of the issues. And one of the fun things at the fire station is having the city employees be told by the fire department, you can't park there, that's our spot, even though we told them we couldn't park there ahead of time. But we didn't have that opportunity here. But the parking lot does fill up quite a lot. We do take up a lot of the space, so.
But
Yes.
I was there at 8:30, and it was really nice to be able to drive on, offload the back of the vehicle, have somebody watch the stuff, go park, and get it set up, rather than, carrying all that stuff from one place to another. That was very convenient.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, your leaflets were actually distributed at the Harbor Alliance neighborhood councils every month for several months and in various neighborhood councils. So word did get around. I don't know how many people got up there on what seemed to be a very warm day. But
We got to work on that. We still have
Okay.
trouble.
yeah, you guys got to do something about the weather.
We're working on that.
What is can you give me a rough idea of your total budget and how many people? And it sounds like you're working on the thing like for a whole year in advance, sort of like the Rose Parade. So,
We start the Valley Disaster Preparedness Team Committee in January in order to get a little time off in November, December. But the foundation itself generally meets once a week. We've had a few weeks off likewise. So that's where a lot of the pre-stuff works, a lot of what's the major stuff going to happen and address. This year, it cost us $49,000.
okay. So if we wanted to copy what you're doing further south, not necessarily San Pedro, but maybe Harbor City or something like that, to do some sort of a comparable job, you're suggesting that we really do need about a year of prep, or at least 6 months of prep, and about $50,000. And that does not count the fact that you have all bought a lot of equipment over the years that you still have. Do you have a rough idea of how much equipment you've accumulated?
Very little equipment, actually.
Tents and tables.
The tables and chairs, as you all know, you get a certain allowance from the city. The rest we have to rent. Same thing with that large tents. The first time we did a very large tent like that area. We also had the great advantage of the Northridge Fashion Center. We call it the mall, but it's the center. Allowing us to set up Friday. Originally, when we started talking with them, well, you can have a lot at 10 p.m. Friday night. Okay. So through a lot of work, mostly Dave Brown's effort, they allowed us in during the day Friday. It took several hours to get that tent set up, as well as the bicycle railing to perimeter it. But keep in mind, this was huge for us. Prior fairs have run maybe in the range of $20,000 to $30,000. But it depends. Are you having to pay for the location, or do you get it free? How much stuff do you want to put into the kits? That's kind of our fudge factor, if you will, because there's certain fixed costs. You can decide not to have food. Maybe you could have food trucks instead and pay lots of money for lunch. It's a different issue, but you could do that. I could save you not nearly as much as you would think, but there could be savings there.
Okay, do you spend a lot on the kids?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact number now, but it's typically, what would I get? I don't know. I'd have to look. I don't know. But there's also insurance, issues. There's supplies. We did not run out of ice. We did not run out of water. For those that suggested we may have. You may not have gotten any, but we didn't run out.
Okay, my last remark that I'll aim sort of in the general direction of the bonk and all that is neighborhood councils, most of us are donating a modest amount of money for the Congress, like $250 a year or something like that. So I think Dunn could probably set up a fund, essentially a checkoff, where people could donate to disaster fairs. We ought to think about that. It would be a plus.
Yeah, and we have tried for probably 5 years. We've since given up to try to be able to set up a fund with the city to our neighborhood councils. Just, you notice how if it benefits the city, they're very eager to do it. Like the budget advocates and the other one that I can't think of right now. Yeah, the Congress. They're more than willing to set up a fund, give us the money, and we'll spend it. For other events that aren't under their control, they seem to be much less willing to do that. But we did have a few people who were really smart on budget-wise many, many years ago, try to get that set up to where the NCs could contribute the money, it'd be taken care of. unless there's somebody here or a budget advocate that wants to help with that. No, we do now have a city account that through the office got set up, so that's a start. But we don't have that ability to do that. And when you talk about modest funds, there are several NCs that contribute thousands of dollars to budget advocates because they tend to do it at the end of the budget year to where we're just going to give it back to the city, and so thousands and thousands go. But yeah, it's for the local neighborhood councils, we generally have been asking them for $850. Some say, oh, that's way too much. We can't possibly. So, you know, if you consider one neighborhood council wants to say, we only want our NC people to get that kit because we're giving you the money, I tell them they're going to get about 10 kits. Would you want to reconsider?
Okay.
I know, I do not understand either, but I do understand how budgeting works.
It's all
and how the
parochialism,
NCs
we
work.
see too much of it.
Yeah, it's all back to the same stuff.
I'll wrap up with.
Use your mic, I can't hear you.
I'll wrap up with this. Those of you who are out in the valley know that there's a way that we can help fund certain things for the Valley Alliance. It's a smaller amount, obviously, but who knows, maybe there could be something that goes in the same way, even though the Valley Alliance is an alliance of 34 neighborhood councils, so that in a way is,
But they say they always have no money.
well,
They don't have money to do their stuff at the CVS.
well, yeah, they do have. So,
Okay.
what can I say? But that's what we're at. Bill, it was a successful thing. Thank you and the committee for putting that together. I wish we could get the city out there to do a little more advertising. It would be a great place to do it. And I'd love to see the city actually advertise something like that and come through with something that would be really meaningful rather than a trifold pamphlet. But, you know, there you go. So,
And there is tremendous amount of information in the kits in addition to the practical stuff. I did bring some souvenir programs, flyers from the event over there if you'd like to take a look. It's 4-page. It gives you an idea as to what's involved, how it works. But yeah, we'd love to get more of them involved. But one of the things you might consider putting on our website is links to events like that.
yeah, well, and the other thing where the city could help is with the kits. And the reason I think myself they're so important is they're a very, very good starter for people, as was indicated, because they see the kind of supplies that you can get and then you can add to it. And they've got the beginnings of something that maybe will last them for 3 days, 6 days if they put the right stuff in it, you know, in an emergency. So that's where I think the city could be. But, you know, it's worth talking about and seeing what we can do.
Sometimes we'll ask the city, just like the government, or federal government, some of that stuff came from FEMA. Oh, gee, we're back ordered, but we can't tell you when we're going to get new stuff in,
Okay.
as an example. So yeah, but if they could contribute parts to the kit, information, even kind of help fund it somehow, would be great and wonderful. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah, one more question here. Grab your mic. Oh, you want the mic?
Yeah, I want them. Yeah, question.
I just wanted to say that Bill mentioned donations, and we had a donation from someone right here in the room, a personal donation. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Glad to help.
He donated a copy of his book, and we had a drawing for that amongst our service appreciation people, and it went to a lovely lady. I can't remember her last name. First name is Robin, and she lives in Pomona, and
No.
I'm sorry, for Coima, not Pomona. And Bill is going to be delivering that to her. They're trying to get their times straight, so he can deliver the book.
Just hand it to her?
Yes.
Yeah, but well, I'm only available on Wednesdays in the afternoon, so you know, we're working on it.
But we do
You're
appreciate
making a copy before you get it to her,
Are you kidding? I think it's very.
Thank you, Bill. We do appreciate it. It's a lovely gesture.
I wouldn't want to make a copy. I'm going to buy the original.
All
Like
right.
the tabs and the stuff. I'm going to put
Yeah,
that
this,
together.
by the way, this fair is the kind of thing that really promotes the idea. I know some people were disappointed, the people that I spoke to. Our booth just happened to be in a place where the line for the emergency kit went right by. And it's amazing how many neighborhood council shopping bags, pens with the soft stylus, brochures, We finally got rid of our coffee mugs that we've had for years and nobody has wanted. As people came by, and what they seemed to like was the fact that there were a lot of informational places rather than just vendors, you know, people advertising stuff. But there were places where they could get information and they were pleased with that idea. So I know we ended up, because we always have them, we have tons of them, brochures from FEMA, from the Red Cross, from the state, all with various things. And people were just scooping those things up as they went by and putting them into the shopping bags that we had.
And then what they find out when they get home is now they have 2 copies because we beat you to it.
There you go.
Also, one thing I do want to mention about the fair, because you used the word vendor, we prefer to use the word exhibitor, because yet again, one of the cool things about the fair is that since it's all free, we don't allow the exhibitors to sell anything.
Not even to take orders.
Or to take orders. Now, if someone sneaks it on their cell phone, what can you do? We're not blocking the cell phone signal. But that way you don't have a special today, fair only, just $100, and you go home and find out it was 60 on Amazon.
Yeah, okay.
So that does turn a few exhibitors away, but we have plenty.
Okay, yeah, that's okay.
That's a
John,
really key point.
A couple of observations. and I've
speak really loud.
And I've been to a bunch of these.
Yep.
I think you were fortunate, and then we had Houston and some major
Yeah.
That
that
gets attention.
sensitized people. And the fact that we were all kind of, it was so crowded that we were all kind of squashed together and we were waiting in line. I talked myself hoarse during the event. It wasn't just about radio and communications. People came up and wanted to know about everything. I think the emergency kits are great. I think the free food is great and all those things. But I think the most important thing, I've got one. The most important thing that happens there is personal education. People came up to me and asked the simplest questions. Should I have water? Yeah. Can I drink my swimming pool water? No. How much water should I have? The question I got asked over and over, and I hope there's no SOS here, do I have to buy those expensive dehydrated food kits? No. Just buy the food you eat, buy extra and put some in the garage. The canned food and whatever. So I think the educational factor of that fair was fabulous. And I think you should be commended for that, because of those 7,000 people, or however many were there, 500, did 1,000 people get some water or some extra food? Probably. And will they maintain it? Probably not, but at least it's a start. And I think you did a terrific job.
One of the things that we include in that kit, we call it a list of lists. It's been put together over time, but you also download from SoCalPrep.us website, individual lists, as well as a link that says Get It All. One of the key things we have on there, is we have learned from our own personal experience and yours as well, is one of those lists is where to buy the stuff. And you're right, you don't have to get some things, you will, but most of it, 99-cent store. We have a sheet in there that says how Brian from Lake Balboa took $59.47 and put together a whole mess of kits for his family and friends. Where to buy it, what it cost, how many to get 1,000 of these, split it apart, it's all there. So yeah, once they go home and get through all the goodies on the top, there's all that great information. And you're right, it is learning. That's one of the reasons why some of the lines were long, because, yeah, I want to check in. Now,
Okay.
What do I do? What about this? How do I go? No, this is registration, but we had an information booth that everybody went right past.
But it worked out very well. It worked out very well. We want to have an advertisement from part of our support group, from Dunn, for just a second. It has to do with the program. Here you go. John?
First of all, thank you all for what you do. I know not enough people say that.
Oh, by the way, introduce yourself for those who don't know you.
Yes, my name's John Darnell. I work for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and we're here every month. And one of the only alliances that actually records the meeting so that people can see it and get educated on what you do. I speak the language. I know Linda. I'm CERT trained, first aid certified, so I get it. And I wasn't turning the camera to point at the people that were speaking. I was kind of into what everyone was saying. And Bill, thank you so much again for the event. I didn't go this year, but I've been before. It's great. I'm from the Valley, so I was old enough to remember the Northridge earthquake and how terrible it was. But I just want to make a quick announcement about a program that the Department of Aging has, and I'm not sure many of you know about it. I'm sure some of you do. It's for seniors, and what they do, and Ms. Rivas is here from the Highland Park Neighborhood Council, working with her and actually another board member from that neighborhood council on bringing this program to their senior rec center. They give out the bags that look like this, they're orange, and they put a light amount of stuff in there so that you can basically take it with the little string backpack and just go. And it's a 1 hour class. They have to take the class, you have to register, and they set up these meetings, they RSVP at the senior centers, so there's like a built-in audience so that they can have stuff in here. So for example, your important documents or just a light amount of whatever goes in there, they have it kind of pre-built. And they usually pass out about 10,000 of these per year. So they'll have classes of 20 to 80, I think 80 is about the max or so. And if a neighborhood council really wants to get involved, you can probably, if you work with the city clerk's office and we can help you with that, is you can probably purchase them too from your own neighborhood council, put your logo on there, and do your own event with them, and maybe help, promote emergency preparedness, in your own community that way with seniors. Because as you saw, like in Houston, for example, there's people, in assisted living homes and other places that were just kind of left and didn't get help, or at least didn't have anything that they could take. And so, we want to try to help all the different demographics we can. So I just want to make sure that you knew about that program. If any neighborhood council is interested in that, the Department of Aging will come out and they have a person that teaches the 1 hour class, and then they give out the backpack at the end. It's a really cool class, and it's a thing that's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's a really good program. I've been to a few myself, and we're helping to do one in Highland Park for them. So,
What do they teach again?
it's a 1 hour emergency preparedness class for seniors, and then they give you a backpack at the end where you can put a light amount of stuff in. So, like the basics, like what happens when the earthquake happens. You go into a table, the doorway thing. They teach you the difference between that. The fire department, police department might not be there, for a week. So you should have supplies in your home. Basically like a general roundabout of kind of what you should know about emergency.
What's the group that teaches that?
The City of Los Angeles Department of Aging. Yeah.
2 years ago, when we had My Safe LA, which works with that agency, as one of our speakers, part of that was tied in with the Department of Aging, and we gave out kits to all the seniors that came in addition to what they may have gotten at the fair. It's kind of like that short cert class that we talk about a lot. I forget now exactly what its name is. Anybody remember that? But it's very basic, how to be prepared, how to be safe in your home, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's only an hour. It's really quick, so it's a lot to learn, I guess. An hour to squish into an hour. But it's a really nifty program and something that's just super valuable that I don't think a lot of people know about. So if you want to try to have it one in your community, or just maybe if there's one already happening in the community because they've already had a reservation for one that's happening in a couple of months, maybe go and just tell them you have someone from the neighborhood council go, and maybe just tell them what your neighborhood council does. Hey, you know what? I'm John. I'm from the X neighborhood council, and a couple of minutes on what we do, so that people can know what you do. So it's a good opportunity for neighborhood council.
We've also had them at the fair just about every year as well.
Okay. Now, of course, we have the question of what do they count as seniors, but we won't get into that now.
John, is that available in Spanish by any chance?
They do have instructors of different languages. I don't know Spanish, but they do have instructors that speak other languages. Yeah, I'm not sure if Spanish is one of them, but
Yeah, Spanish would make sense.
but they do have people that speak other languages.
Yeah, we're going to go. Hang on. Yeah, that's where we're going. That's where we're going. Things took longer than we, okay. General review, I said presentation to NCs, communications, organizational programs. We have heard a lot. We've heard from private, we've heard from public. The question now is, on just a general basis, ideas, I get a piece of paper, start writing them down. Ideas for promoting some of these things through the neighborhood councils. I don't expect the neighborhood council to be the be-all, end-all, but I certainly expect neighborhood councils to be the initial organizers and to get things started, such as the map your neighborhood and things like that, and go. Suzanne, grab a microphone.
My
frustration with the city, and especially the mayor, is that he issues mandates for certain things, and something like this, you would think would be on his radar. But why is he not supporting this like he said he would initially when we began? That's going to be key to us getting some of this money. We're basically trying to get money for the same thing. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. I have asked, but I think we need to ask as a group. We need to insist that he support us. He issued a mandate that every neighborhood council has to have a person to represent film and television.
That's me.
Okay, well, that's me too, but it still has to do with, this is an important issue that it's going to affect us all. We're all going to be impacted when it happens. We know that. And we need to wake up those, that 90% that aren't awake, that don't believe it impacts them, that it's not going to happen, and that they don't need water, and they're going to be just fine. It's not in reality.
Well, I can tell you one thing, that his office has to be aware of this because of the fact that there's a couple of people in his office that get the agendas for these meetings. They're on the list, so they're well informed that these meetings are occurring.
In answer to your question, you all have heard about the Ready Your LA neighborhood program, and one of the components of that is videos, public service announcements, including the mayor, and whatever Hollywood talent we could get to make public service announcements, just like you're talking about. So it's coming, and there is budget for it, so it'll be a little better. And the mayor has agreed to do the announcements, and we have to work through all the politics of the content and things like that. So it's probably going to be January or February, but they should start coming out. Does that help?
Okay, that will help. That will help. I still think that the boots on the ground are going to be the neighborhood councils. How do we get them going? I mean, how do we convince them to have their EP committees and such as that? How do we convince them to start organizing and working with the various groups in their neighborhoods that, you know, can do that? Bob, short and sweet?
It cannot be short and sweet, but
Well,
I think it's important.
you've got to talk into here.
Okay. This one okay?
Go ahead. It's on.
Oh, there. Is it working? Okay. I said 2 years at the beginning of this meeting. Sometime in 2015, we started meeting. We had 60 or 70 people at the time. We're down to the hardcore dozen or so. And more than a year ago, we had a couple of meetings on planning and came up with some proposed ideas, which did in fact include presentations to neighborhood councils that would be sort of ongoing. We also proposed that people go out and make themselves the chair of an emergency planning subcommittee of the neighborhood council. So I've done all of those. I've presented to 3 or 4 neighborhood councils in the area. I've presented to the Harbor Alliance and so on. But I'm not getting the support from this organization. We just keep coming in and we talk and we hear. We hear from representatives. We hear what happened. We're very passive. And the fact that the city of Los Angeles, how shall I put it, Eric Garcetti opened up this can of worms when he brought in Lucy Jones to study the problem. And she came up with a report, which I've read. She gave talks around town, which I think most of us went to and heard Lucy Jones. And we, from that point, got very sensitized to the you won't have water, electricity, gas, sewage, etc. So what I'd like to see is this organization decide what it wants to be. And I'm talking about this particular alliance because I'm tired of driving the 110, which is always blocked up, even on Saturday morning. It's really amazing. But aside from that, I believe that we should do what we did in our task forces that we did through the link a long time ago, which was we discussed an issue, sometimes for 5 or 6 weeks. It seemed like a long time. We came up with conclusions, we passed resolutions, and we wrote a very brief report, not to exceed 3 pages, which we then presented directly to the city council and at a big event. And Lynn, Doug Epperhart, and I sat side by side at that little table in the horseshoe, and we got elections back for the neighborhood councils through a negotiated settlement. So I'd like to see just what I heard from the back, a report and recommendations that say the city of LA should take this seriously, should consider a budget of, an easy number would be to say double the neighborhood council budgets, where that money goes for a couple of things. One is emergency preparedness, and the other is a little bit of everything else. And cut through all the red tape. The cargo containers, gosh darn, there's thousands of them sitting empty out there in the yards in Long Beach and LA. We all know that. And do something. So I think it's time to start making some decisions as to what we want to do. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier was, gosh darn, what we should be doing down in the other side of the hills is copying. You know, you got something, I went to it last year. This year it was like 137 degrees, and I had been doing animal surgeries all week, and I was very, very tired. My fingers were tired, so I didn't go, but I still have the bag from last year. I don't think I need 2 of them, right? And
Well, car, kit.
correct, okay. So, without being too specific or too vague, we ought to get on with it. We ought to come up with our plan. And I don't mean over the next year or 2. I mean over the next now. And we had a plan a year ago. We had a meeting. Actually, you weren't here that time, Lynn. And we wrote all this stuff on the back board. And then we had another time where a bunch of us said, we will handle the following neighborhood councils. Well, I've got mine minus 1. I still got to get out to Wilmington. But I want to know what to teach them. And I know I can't teach them about the evacuation plan for San Pedro, because there isn't one. And if there were, it would be impossible. Okay? But one thing that is working, I notice that people are hearing more and more, Doug, shelter in place, grab, whatever, get under the table and hold on, basically, is what they're saying. So that's useful, but the problem is that all we're teaching is, for that 3.5 minutes, you know what to do. It's up to those 3.5 minutes, or whatever that is going to be, and the aftershocks, and what you do when your house is broken down, that we don't know what to do. So, so I want the plan, and I want to have a delegation that will go and have a meeting of the minds with would include the director of this organization, who I'm thinking about trying to call myself, and the mayor's office, which ought to be the mayor, and the city councilman, and the fire department, and so on, and just say, okay, get CERT training going, and we need to train 100,000 people, or we'll find somebody else to do it. And if there's politics and budgeting, that's your problem. You got a week to solve it. It's like, I happened to work in a building that was built in 1942. Why? Well, there was a war on, and they needed hospital space and training and stuff, so they took the whole back lot of it. Is Harbor UCLA now. It used to be called Harbor General. They built all those wooden buildings. Okay? They could do it. All the rest of it is just excuses. Let's say enough with the excuses. We're either serious about it or we're not.
Can I
I'd like to go
piggyback
next,
on
please.
that?
That's what I have
Can
to
I-
say follows exactly into what you say.
Me too.
Grab right here and then over here.
Okay.
So, yeah, I agree completely, and I think what we need to do is establish really discrete goals and then hold ourselves accountable. I mean, I've gone back to my neighborhood council and talked about the bins, and they said, yeah, it's a great idea, you know, let us know, give us something more concrete. Today I asked you, you said it's about $3,000 for a bin. Well, I can't go back to them and say, it's about $3,000. I mean, we really need to set up very discrete goals in terms of what we want to accomplish, and then start holding ourselves accountable. Otherwise, we're just having a good time meeting every month.
I've been thinking exactly the same thing that you've been thinking and you've been thinking. And I attempted to run a strategic planning session here that kind of exposed all of the different possible things we could think about. But I think, let's just get down to the brass tacks here. Let's look at the need. How many have been following what's going on in Haiti, Puerto Rico? I actually went to New Orleans. New Orleans was a stomping ground of mine, but I lived in Alabama, which is the place that I got my search and rescue training. But we dealt with tornadoes there. And tornadoes are very localized, all right? Yes, we had to put up with a lot of civil unrest and looting, but people were not going without water for months. I went to New Orleans after Katrina, within a week of it, to do search and rescue activities. And I lasted there about 2 days because of all the civil unrest, and I left. Now, I'm going to Houston next month, but I didn't go at the beginning of Houston because you can't do anything with the civil unrest. We're talking about asking for money for rescue bins. But let's look at what the need really is. If you go back to the statistics that USGS has put together on their predictions, 1,800 buildings will collapse. But out of how many is that? 3, 4 million in the area? These statistics are on the Southern California area. 300,000 buildings will be significantly damaged out of 3 to 4 million. What is that?
10%.
It's less than 10%. 55,000 people will be seriously injured. Okay, and need 55,000 will be seriously injured and need somebody to go find them and get them to a hospital. Well, that's what the CERT or what my civilian neighborhood teams do. But how many people is that? What percentage of the population? 5%. Okay. There will be no food for days to weeks, no water for weeks to months, no power for weeks to months. What percentage of the population does that affect? All of us. All of us. Okay. Maybe, okay, if you take the 5% that are, hopefully we'll get to the hospital, maybe they will be taken care of and won't need food and water. All right. But the rest of the 95%, we need to be training these people on what to do. So I put together a list of requirements that I think we need to be training people on. Where's the thing here? And I'm going to pass this out. Let me just get this started right now.
I think your flashlight's on.
Take one of those and pass it around.
I think your
Take one of those.
Sir?
Your flashlight.
Bill, your flashlight's on.
There are my flashlights. All right. I think it boils down to something just very basic. There are 2 goals that we need to think about. The first one deals with the 95%. We need to be training constituents to fend for themselves. But what is it we need to train them on is the question. All right. This works for 95% that aren't seriously injured. Goal 2 is to address the needs of the 5% who are. And you think, well, let's not even deal with that. This is my civilian emergency response team training program here. The CERT program doesn't get you down to this point, and I'll explain why in a minute. But you could say that, well, this only addresses the 5%, so it's probably not something we need to do. And you can certainly make that decision, unless you happen to be in the 5%. All right? Who's going to come find you? Because as we proved earlier in our strategic planning sessions, the fire department will be able to address only 1% of the need during the golden day the first 24 hours. And that was confirmed by Emergency Management Department. So, where's the page button here? Okay. Let's look at, here's what I think the objective should be to reach goal 1. These are the things we need to be training people to do. All right? The first task is to get their attention and motivate them. And I'm not exactly sure how best to go about doing that. But once we do that, whatever it is, we need to be training them on pre-disaster preparation. How to harden your home to reduce the risk of being injured. Okay? Very important thing. What should be stocking now so that you can survive after the disaster? But that's not enough. We've got tons of these handouts and booklets and things that have been produced over the last decades that address those 2 items, but it's still not being done. But so we need to get the people in a class and show them what happens if you don't do it, you know, with videos, pictures, and so forth. We also need to be training them on what they need to do exactly when the disaster strikes. And there are several different kinds of disasters that can affect us here. Earthquakes are the ones we've been focused on, and that's, you know, duck-covered hole on, but we're now facing the possibility of nuclear attack. And I've spent a good part of this year trying to come up with an action plan for this, and I think I have, and I shared some of that with you last a month or 2 ago. Biological attacks, hazardous material leaks, hurricanes haven't hit us yet, but with global warming they will. We already have had a couple of tornadoes here, and that's going to increase, and tsunami is a possibility, especially one if the Helena slump on the Big Island of Hawaii breaks through, as it is starting to do. We're going to be hit with a 45-foot wall of water.
Excuse me,
All right. Then, post-disaster rescue. Training people how to take care of their families. How to. If you go to the CERT program, it says, take care of your families and then go to the meeting place. What does that mean? All right? The CERT program is taught by firefighters that teach us what they do when they get to the scene of an accident 5 to 10 minutes after it's happened. That's why they start with triage. We are on scene when it happens. We need to start with basic life-saving intervention. Triage is way down the line. Okay? So my training programs start with basic life-saving intervention for those burning, buried, bleeding, or not breathing. We need to train people how to assess the structural stability of their house to know whether they need to get out of it or whether they can stay into it, and how to extract casualties, and they won't have any equipment or any help, so it will have to be with the manual drags and carries taught in CERT training. All right. Now, look at the next option. Why did that spill over? It's not supposed to do that. Okay. Continuation of goal 1, excuse me. Train them on how to manage your utilities, how to suppress small fires, and I'm talking about actually giving them hands-on training here. Okay. And first aid. Then we need to teach them how to survive after they've gotten through the actual event. And that deals with, you know, how to repair your structure, how to seal off your place so it can be, you can be warm enough and out of the elements, how to purify water. And yes, you may have to use swimming pool water, and there is a way that you can do that. All right? And it's very simple. You may even have to go to the ocean and get water and desalinate it with solar stills. That's how bad it's going to be. That's what people in Puerto Rico are doing today. All right? This is not going to be a pretty episode. How to prepare your food so you do not attract the people to tell your neighbors that you actually have food. I challenge you to find the movie Aftermath or Aftershock, which is what happened after the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand. It will really open your eyes. Okay. Goal 2 then is for those 5% of people who do get seriously injured, this is where you need to go and start training what CERT really needs to become which is an urban search and rescue team. And I'm not going to go through all those. I'm going to leave that with you. I have, I've looked at what options are available. Okay. Here are the programs that we have heard about that are available to do this kind of training. The CERT program, the fire department has a 1.5-hour program they call disaster awareness class. They also teach the CERT basic training level 1 class. I've shown you a little bit of my disaster survival seminar and a little bit of my neighborhood emergency response team training program. So those are the things that are available right now. Maybe we have to build one. What are the problems?
Bill,
Yes.
let's do some talking about getting neighborhood councils involved.
I'm talking about neighborhood council.
Right.
All right. Now let me say this. I'm willing to give you some of my stuff, and you can do the presentations yourself.
You got to keep that
So I'm
mic
gonna
close.
take out of your mind that I'm up here trying to sell you something.
Microphone.
Microphone.
What's that?
Mike.
Oh, microphone. Okay, sorry. But here are the problems that I see with the things that are currently available. How many have seen the fire department's disaster awareness class? It's a great class, but it goes about halfway through the material that I think we need to train each of our constituents on. So it's insufficient in and of itself to meet goal 1. But the way the fire department set it up is this is their introduction to get you to go to CERT class. So if you took both of them, then you would know enough to take care of yourself. The trouble is constituents, the majority, do not have 7 weeks that they can invest to go take CERT training. CERT basic training is an overkill for goal 1, teaching people to fend for themselves, but it is insufficient to meet goal 2. And the reason I say that is when you go look at the requirements for each of these goals, which is on that second page that's very fine print, you can see which, I try to list all of the requirements for accomplishing each of the goals and then which program addresses them. So I'm just going to leave that with you. But here is a summary of that, which takes for goal 1, these are the objectives, and I do not know why it is appearing on this computer differently than it appears on my computer. All this is on one page on my computer. So let's see, how do I get out of this?
Well,
It's okay. We got it printed.
don't worry, we got to print it. Okay.
Well, we have the gist.
Okay, you got the gist. All right,
Yeah.
then I'm just going to leave it with you. Enough said. But I think we should, I'd like to see the report that you were talking about that you guys came up with. You came to some conclusions.
Well, we came to proposals, which had to do with a training program for neighborhood councils and so on.
Yeah.
We didn't have that available.
Well, no, because it was just a proposal of what the plan would be.
We wrote a bunch of stuff on the boards, took
I have
pictures,
that.
never produced it.
Yeah, I've got the pictures.
I've got that, I mean, it was just, stuck through the mic.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
basically very similar, sorry. Okay, what we came up with was basically very similar to your goal 1, which was that it was how do we get through to people to engage in goal 1, and that was kind of that was the first part of it. The second part of it was how do we convince the city government to provide what needs to be provided.
Goal 1 really doesn't take an awful lot from the city. We can do that ourselves just by starting to hold classes at the neighborhood council. You know, and you just make the presentation. is how do you get people's interest that I'm still struggling with? How do you get their attention and how do you motivate them to come to the club? Right? I don't have
Free food. That was just mentioned, and my joke is in Tarzana, we could offer endless mimosas and we'd still have a problem getting them. Yeah, getting people interested in this city is a very big thing. The idea of having PRAs, PAs, excuse me, PAs, PSAs. I'll get it right. That's the name of an airline. Some of you are maybe too young to know that. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there others who have comments? So we've had a couple of people talking for a long time. Okay. No? Bob, go ahead. Got a couple more
Okay,
minutes.
we've struggled with that, and taking stuff out to the neighborhood councils was obviously an idea. What's frustrating to me is that we didn't just jump right on it a year ago and say, let's do it. And by now, we could be giving reports to each other that we've had 30 or 40 neighborhood councils where we've done this. I think that we ought to write the training manual for this, and that would be very, very brief. But I'm not willing to wait another 7 months to do it.
Well, okay. Good idea is to do this offline. Bring it on back. Let people look at it. We do have an offer from John, and I think it works.
So, again, my name is John Darnell with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Just to give you one idea, and this helps with the issue of the Purposeful Aging Initiative. A good example to sort of copy if you want to get neighborhood councils involved is the Mar Vista Community Council. They have a aging in place committee, but they don't really have a meeting. People sometimes get meetinged out. You know, you show up and there's minutes and stuff like that, and the community kind of looks cross-eyed sometimes. You know, although sometimes you have to have meetings because maybe there's a CAS you want to do or something like that you want to submit. But every month they have a speaker that comes and they talk about a different issue. They talk about caregiving. They talk about nutrition, transportation for seniors, and that's their committee. And it's every month. And they've had Laura Trejo, the general manager from the Department of Aging, to just, you know, people that volunteer at, you know, assisted living centers come out in their community, and they do that every month. And about probably 40 people show up every month to their committee, which really isn't a meeting, it's a presentation on a different issue every month, and they get different people coming out. And it's just one way, just want to throw it out there, one way that, you know, a part of the department can help out with this, you know, because we see all the neighborhood councils, and, you know, not everyone shows up here, so it's hard for you to talk to all those people, but we see all those people. So if there's something we can help out with trying to, you know, put an idea out there. If you go to the Mar Vista's website and you look at aging in place, it goes back about 3 or 4 years, and you can see all the different subjects they've talked about. And if you replace one with an emergency preparedness issue, and you kind of be creative and like hypothetically look at it, hey, what can I plug in here? And you can see then how it could go by in a couple of years. How every month or every 2 months, maybe every 3 months, quarterly, you could have a speaker or somebody come out to talk about an issue. And then they're not going to necessarily be, you know, and it's sort of already a built-in thing, you know. So I just want to mention that it's what they do for aging, and maybe it could work for you guys.
I do it every month.
There you go.
So does Linda Pruitt.
Yeah.
Got one, maybe for Bob. I can't remember her last name, is Sydney? Yeah. But no, there's a lady in San Pedro, Sydney, don't know her last name, but she is involved with the Public Safety Committee at one of the councils down there, and she requested through EMD a briefing, and so their Crescenta that was here earlier is not the person that was going to do it, but under the program that they're rolling out, it's going to be basically a map your neighborhood overview, the legacy program until the other program gets started, but EMD can support overview meetings at neighborhood councils. These are like 15-minute or so. It's not a course, but it's an overview meeting just to possibly find people that are interested in hosting neighborhood meetings like that. So things are getting started. And
Well, we had some discussion of that at the regional.
Okay.
yeah, that's where I think that's what it's involved with.
Okay.
I'll talk to you separately.
May I make a suggestion? Everybody's got my email address, right? Send me bullet points what would be good to put in front of neighborhood councils, just bullet points, basics, that, your 30-second elevator talk, make this a 3-minute elevator talk, to motivate and sell emergency preparedness, because that's what Bill does. That's what we should be doing, is selling emergency preparedness. Because I've talked to other neighborhood councils and I've gone out to them and I've done some presentations.
We have it.
Yeah, and
We have it.
okay,
So all we need to do is
Put together,
flesh out
okay.
each of these points.
well, we need to put together like a program of no more than like 1 to 3 or 5 minutes that we can all present to our council.
Well, what we want to do is, it's one thing to speak during public comment, it's another thing to convince them to put somebody on the agenda, and I think the thing that has to be done is get on an agenda, get your 5 minutes, get your 10 minutes, whatever it is, and it's got to be stressing what's going on, what needs to be done. Everybody needs an EP committee. EP committees can work with, when you come into my neighborhood, we've got 2 neighborhood watch groups on Facebook. Between the 2 of them, there are probably 2,400 people on those Facebooks. That's a pretty good start to being able to contact people to set things up. So,
Kind of imposing your.
Yeah,
Yeah,
next
no.
door is.
no, I'm
great.
saying that's just an example, because there's,
Yeah,
but-
okay. So how many neighborhood councils in this room
Bob,
don't have a public safety committee, don't have an EP committee? I mean, we have an emergency preparedness and public safety committee. I just added those 2 words onto it.
Well, there's a
How many
lot-
don't have a public safety committee? Y'all do.
Bob, no, there's a lot of neighborhood councils who don't, unfortunately. I get the agendas out in the valley, and from the South Valley, there are ones that I never see an EP committee or something like that.
They're not real
Yeah.
neighborhood.
No, they're real neighborhood councils.
It
Right.
seems to me, if I can have that last
Go ahead.
minute here. Okay, goal 1 objectives on this piece of paper is kind of what I was thinking of, a long time ago. I'm not so concerned about a tsunami, believe it or not. Tornado, I lived in tornado country at one time, but I'm not too worried about it right now. And all the other stuff. Earthquakes, hardening your house, and so on like that. We can present this, we can certainly get on an agenda, and we can give a 5-minute elevator speech about why we want to do that, and then we can arrange to give talks 5 or 10 or 15 minutes every month for the next year if we want. And we can go through all these, and all we have to do is do a preparation. In fact, we could come up with a PowerPoint presentation for each and all of these things. And then we wouldn't have to do it individually, we would just have one.
Okay. I'll be willing to send you guys my presentation for goal 1. Free. You can use it. What I want from you is feedback. All right? What else needs to be added? I have stuff in there that you probably won't use, like how to set a trap, how to set a snare, all right? But that's at the end. But it'll give you a feel for what I think is important, and you feed me back what you think is important, so I can flesh it out. I'm willing to do that. If you want me to come do it,
Okay.
that's going to cost money.
Okay. All right, then we'll take you up on that offer. One last thing, okay. If you take a look at the dates in November and December, you will see that, let me pull them up. Come on.
November 25th and December
Right.
23rd.
So, Thanksgiving is the 23rd of November, and that's 2 days before we would normally meet. I'm assuming that a lot of people aren't going to be around. Would that be a correct thing?
Right.
in December, our meeting would be on the 23rd, which would be the Saturday before Christmas.
Happening.
3 days after Hanukkah.
Yeah, 3 days, yeah. So am I presuming that we're going to have a lot of people not around? Okay. Since I gripe to them, I say the budget advocates meet on the 3rd Saturday, and I gripe to them that they meet on the 4th. So what I'm thinking is maybe we should look at going into January. By then, we should have, hopefully, the fight, and I'll keep on them. LAFD's bid program should be fleshed out. At least that's what I got from John Ignatzik when I spoke to him 2 days or so ago. Their bid program, LAFD's bid program. And we could schedule John to come and talk, which I think would give us,
So not interested.
well, you may not be, Bob, but that gives us something to present to neighborhood councils. There's a lot of NCs out there that are interested. This gives us our answer. Hi, put me on the agenda. I'll come talk to you about an emergency bid program. And while I'm here, I'm going to talk about a few other things. And that gets us going.
Rather than waiting until January, how about if we combine the 2 meetings and meet on December 2nd? Does that work?
December 2nd.
I'll be in Houston.
December 2nd. Oh, that's a Lank meeting. And, I try really, really hard not to meet on other alliances meeting day.
Okay.
And then the second one is Plan Check LA. And the third one is the Budget Advocates. And like I say, I have griped at them when they plan things for ours.
Okay.
And so.
But you're making decisions for us.
So the question is, okay.
How about for 1 hour after the blank meeting, we take up the final form of goal 1.
You know,
We'll put it together and we will discuss it and look at the PowerPoint. And then we will make a decision.
Only if the Lank meeting ends at about noon.
Well, we don't have to stay all through.
We can actually walk out to the cafeteria.
What is Link?
LA Neighborhood Council Coalition, it's been in existence since 2005, et cetera, et cetera. We could do that. I mean, anybody who wants to. It's at DWP. We could put together a table outside in their cafeteria.
What day
That would be the 2nd
of December?
of December.
I'm in
Parking
Houston.
is free.
Yeah, parking's free. You just come in at
Tell them you're for the neighborhood council meeting.
Where's DWP?
You don't know where the DWP building is downtown?
Why should he know? Most of us
I know
don't
a
have to
lot,
go
I know a
there.
lot of them, but not now.
I thought everybody knew that.
It's right across the street from the music center.
Right across the street.
Right across the street from.
It's Hope Street. You get off, you get off.
111 North Hope, got it.
Yeah,
It's that big building with.
yeah.
all the-
But you've got to take to get into the parking lot, you got to take the entry in on Hope Street that's closest to Temple. Would that work for people? That way we wouldn't miss a whole lot?
Not for an hour.
I'm scheduled to be in Houston doing reconstruction work
Okay,
after Harvey.
I'm sorry.
Well, you can Facebook. those.
Yeah, and the thing, what I would say is that I know that the Lank just never runs on time, and at about noontime, everybody who's there could walk out and go into the library and meet. We won't advertise it to an extent, but we won't antagonize.
Right, you can make it at 12:30 and then you can.
Okay, DWP, that when I wanted to try and meet there, says, that's not a function of this department. And I said, okay, guys, yeah, I know. So, all right.
Why don't we just have the meeting on the regular Saturday next in November?
Which, hang on.
It's before Thanksgiving.
Probably give us about the same amount of people in.
People will be out of town.
Yeah, well, we've got the 4th, or we've got it's the 25th. Okay, which would we rather do? Meet on blank in November or meet on that Saturday in December. We've got two choices.
November for me.
November for him because he'll be in Dallas.
They're both November.
Huh?
They're both November.
Well, no, one is in November, one's December. Either the fourth, one would be the fourth day of November, the other would be the second day of December.
Fourth Saturday, right?
No, not the fourth Saturday. The fourth of,
Oh, November 4.
November 4.
That's a week from now.
I got board meetings and.
Yeah, November 4 is real close. December 2,
Well, what about the third Saturday in November? And I don't give a damn about the budget.
I know you don't, but I try not to impose on
I
them.
understand that. How about the third Saturday in November?
If anybody doesn't care about them, we could meet that day. Do we just impose? Don't go away yet, Susan. We're talking about a
What
date.
date is that?
Should we just say to heck with them and meet on the 18th of November? All right, I'll set it up for the 18th of November. I'll talk to them very quickly here, and we'll just meet on the 18th of November, and the budget advocates can yell at us.
meeting.
What?
Invite them to our,
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea.
To what?
invite one of their reps to our meeting.
There you go.